Hi, Greta Ross here, host of Mind, Body, Soul Shift. As most of you know, I've lost over 100 pounds, been able to keep the weight off for 6 years. No dieting, no medication, no surgeries. Was it a struggle? Yes. Did it take time? Absolutely. It was quite the journey. But what I want you to know is that you can do this. You're so worth it. What I decided was that my life was worth it. So I took control of my life. I took control of my health. So what I want you to know is you too can take control of your health. You do not have to live with any type of diseases or discomfort or pain. You can live a healthy lifestyle. So please join us here on Mind, Body, Soul Shift and learn how to make the shift. This is Greta Ross, Mind, Body, Soul Shift. And we're back with Chef Eboni. I have a quick question.
Yes.
If you are diagnosed with borderline or prediabetes, what are the chances of developing the next step?
Really, it's really all up to, again, it's diet and lifestyle. So
Okay.
if you continue doing the same things that you're doing, most likely you'll develop, diabetes. If you take that as a warning sign, as a signal to change your lifestyle, then it can be completely reversible. Even type 2 diabetes. I've even heard cases of people with type 1 diabetes, even though conventional medicine says type 1 diabetes can't be reversed. But I have seen cases where type 1 diabetes has been reversed through diet and lifestyle. And the main ones that have been reversed is people who've gone on completely vegan diets and raw food diets, plant-based diets, because it's about getting your body into that alkaline state. It's about getting your body, we have DNA in our body. We all know we have DNA. Every single cell has a copy of itself on what to do. But what differentiates my toe from my eyelash or from my ear or a liver or a heart cell? What differentiates that DNA in that area to reproduce and know that that's what it's supposed to do? And that's something that's always kind of fascinated me.
Me too.
Because there was this, it was a story of a lady that had, it was a reaction to medication. They ended up finding out, but all of her hair follicles turned to fingernails. The keratin in it switched to where they started growing as fingernails. So this is painful because they're actually growing out as sharp shards through her hair follicles. What makes your body send the signals that it does to the certain areas that it does to reproduce in the way that it's supposed to, and what makes it continue to reproduce it correctly, or what makes it continue, once a defect has happened, what makes it continue to reproduce incorrectly?
Yeah.
Right? Where does that information, come from? And a lot of it is stored in our DNA.
Wow.
That information is 100% stored in our DNA. And the one thing that kind of confuses me or baffles me sometimes is how much modern science or Western medicine discounts the power of DNA, not understanding it, because they, and that's, if you look at science, most of the time if they don't understand something, they just throw it out, right? They just discount it.
Yeah.
And so they understand that 3 to 5% of it is coding on saying that my hair will be black or my eyes will be brown, my skin will be this color. But the other 95%, they just say it's junk. They don't understand what it is. But we are too perfect of beings to have 90% of what makes us just be junk, right? And so it's a telecommunication system, right? It's an energetic, and now you're starting to see some science. It's not getting as mainstream, but I like to study a lot of the things that they're starting to see that information really is a telecommunication system. It is an energetic based system that tells your body how it should form and how it should produce and how it should reproduce. But one of the things that we were so unfocused
But we don't listen to our
We
bodies.
don't. We're so unfocused.
We do not listen to our bodies.
We've become that leaf in the ocean that just goes wherever
Yeah.
it takes us, instead of becoming that master ship of having the sail and having the rotor and having the engine and being pointed in a certain direction of where
Yes.
we want to go. And so we just kind of go wherever, wherever, hopefully we'll be like Tom Hanks on the when he gets rescued
him
out
and
there,
Wilson.
with him and Wilson, and gets rescued out in the middle of the great, great ocean, or we can just, never to be seen again. And so it's about being purposeful and being mindful. And it's not that you can't, and people think that now I'm depriving myself, I won't be able to enjoy life.
That's not true.
Okay, so if you look at people who get into the end stages of the diseases, they're not having fun. They're not enjoying
Not at all.
life. Their life is not, mobile. Some of the, the worst symptoms a lot of times is diabetes goes unchecked, and it's uncontrolled. You start off with neuropathy, right? You lose the feeling in your extremities. And if you get a cut or a wound, you're not able to heal it, and because you have poor healing. And one of the reasons why you have poor healing is, what bacteria's favorite food is? It's sugar.
Yeah.
When I worked in the microbiology lab, we would grow the microbes on sugar plates. Like, that's what was on the plate with their food, and the medium is sugar. And so you have all this excess sugar in your blood. This is why the wounds can't heal, and then it gets gangrenous, and then you end up having to amputate, or you lose a limb, or your kidneys become distressed, and then you end up on dialysis, or you need kidney transplants. And so, like, it just becomes this ever evolving. So you're not having fun while you're enjoying this ice. So you think you can eat this ice cream and eat the pizza and do, I had a pizza last week. I've gone years without eating a pizza, and then in the past couple of years, 4 times in 1 year. So, but I don't feel like I eat really great food. I eat, I cook good food,
But
quality
it's real food, though. That's
it's
the
real
other thing.
When I go out to eat, I pick nicer places to eat out, or restaurants. So I know they actually make the food there fresh versus going to chains, and it may be overly processed. I have no problem asking for them to make modifications.
Right.
Can you make this with veggies or what? So I speak up for myself. And if you look at the market, it really is changing. So I don't want to also end with just sounding so negative with the positive, because I was telling my son, sometimes it's really great to know what we don't want,
Right.
because it makes it ever so clear what we really do want.
Yes, it does.
It brings so much clarity to what it is that we want. And so we've gone down this trail. And life is about fun. It's about experimenting. It's about not being so hard on ourselves. I think that sometimes it's also we have higher expectations. We want more than we consume. We have higher expectations than what our limitations will allow us, than
Yes.
we're moving further than. So, I tell people my favorite food group is pancakes. I love pancakes. You eat pancakes with syrup. But when I'm at home, I make them with spelt flour. And when I go out to eat, but the course of my everything else that I'm eating, I'm not eating pancake level of every meal every
Yes.
day or every single, you know what I mean? And so it's like picking what is it you feel like you can't live without, or those things that you really love, finding the alternatives for it.
And that's the one thing that I think that we really need to hit on.
Making it adventure, make it
Right.
fun.
What
does
is it
not
that
have
we
to
can
be-
do? What are the steps that we can take to take better care of ourselves, in reference to making sure that our cells are healthy, that we are, consuming that, the right things, so that we don't become borderline or pre-diabetic? What are some of the things we can do? Just look right at the camera and just share with the audience and let them know, here's what you can do to start this journey, to make sure that you are doing what you need to do so that you can protect yourself for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Well, I think some of the, important things is loving yourself. I don't think that can be understated. We say it all the time, to where sometimes it becomes a catchphrase. It becomes something of a misnomer. What does that really mean? How do I know I'm really doing it properly? And a lot of times we'll know by the people that are in our lives, what we're receiving back, and the evidence from it. Do we have good relationships? A lot of times, we'll see that we have strained relationships. We're holding on to things from the past and those past hurts. And so we can't allow life just to be good and to feel good and to feel good in our bodies and to feel good in our skin. So we build up resentment, right? And so these are energies, these are thought patterns, these are emotions that create real physiological changes within our bodies. And so we discount them as we're like, oh, I should just be able to get over it. Oh, that's just it. That's just how life is supposed to be. But when you're not dealing with it and handling with these things properly, then your body is just like, I can't, our bodies are extremely resilient. Our bodies are extremely resilient in their capacity to be able to handle as much, hard wear and tear that we do to it. And it's okay. It's like, being okay with, forgiving yourself for being hard on your body. But being like, okay, let me be a little bit more gentle to myself. Having the expectation of, I wouldn't want somebody to come up and assault me. But we assault our internal organs. Yes. We assault our heart. We assault our mind with the thoughts that we have. How many, are you beating up on yourself, for past mistakes or past regrets or, your present not being the way you look like it. So I think that is really one of the singular most things that you can really do is to get a handle and get a grip on, on where you are emotionally and feeling emotionally balanced. Because you can eat all the kale you want and eat, and sometimes you'll see people that really are struggling and then it becomes a struggle. Yes. And health doesn't happen in a struggle either. Health happens in relaxed, restful, peaceful states of mind. It doesn't happen. So we even think about these diseases. We're fight against diabetes. We're going to fight against cancer. We're going to fight against these things. Well, you can't heal anything in a fight.
If you're fighting, you can't.
So it's even about changing our language, about how we think about ourselves, how we deal with ourselves, and how we're going to cajole ourselves. Has it ever worked with you? Has anybody ever cajoled you by demeaning you or talking bad to you? Or has that ever really motivated you really to do your best? You might get you to go a little, out begrudgingly, but you're not really giving it. Versus the ones that are loving and kind and supportive to you. How much is your effort and willing to give back to them? And so that's how we have to begin to start having that self-dialogue with ourselves and noticing those patterns with ourselves. Then you'll start seeing the patterns, how it reflects within your own life. Energy am I level. Active or do I sit in the house all day? And do I have a social life? Do I just sit and eat because I'm bored? Am I even paying attention to what I'm putting into my body? Did I even taste that half a gallon of ice cream that I just ate? Is it just a memory? Do I even pay attention? And how does my gut feel? Am I having normal, regular bowel movements? And is my weight easily regulated? Do I feel good and comfortable in my clothes? Or do I just accept the fact that I don't like the way I'm feeling right now? And then, do I go out and exercise? Do I feel motivated to exercise? And our ancestors, they didn't have gyms. They would come back. If you went and got a time machine and picked somebody up from 200 years ago and you brought them to our modern world, they would be like, what in the world is this? Like, everything they would question is like nothing, absolutely nothing. And it's not necessarily a judgment like we've done something wrong, because I think this evolution is brought a lot of great things to us. But we have to know how to use it responsibly. Yes. We have to know how to use our bodies responsibly and respect our bodies responsibly. And not, and people, this is a thing and not make excuses and not make judgments on other people because you're not necessarily living their lives. So they'll be like, people will look at me, well, you can say what you want because you're size or because you're this or because you're that. But if you listen to people who have something that you want, they have jewels of knowledge or even on how I live my life, my particular lifestyle, on how I emotionally, handle myself and then working on develop myself on how the outcome looks on when I'm eating or when I'm shopping. That's, how I'm able to maintain and, and give the presentation physically of who I am. I am physically who I am because of who I've created, who I am emotionally and internally. And so you can't look at somebody else. You can look at them for inspiration and maybe even motivation, but you can't look at them in comparison because you don't know everything that they've experienced. So you know what you've experienced and you know what's your outcome of what you would like. And so look and see, ask them, what do you do naturally? I'm more of a naturally intermittent faster. I don't eat out of boredom. I eat when I'm hungry. I eat till I'm full. I ask my body what it wants to eat. A lot of times it picks healthy things, and sometimes it doesn't pick the healthiest things. And I don't stress about
Right.
and when I'm eating something, I'm not beating myself up, for what I'm eating. As I get older, I begin to, accept maturity and the things that evolution and maturity, has, and, changing my goals and
Yes.
focus. And those are the things that I work to achieve. And so we have to begin to cultivate that internal dialogue of what is it that we really want for ourselves, the expectations for ourselves, and that will reflect on your dinner plate. And so I can, and I will offer classes that can tell you on how to, arrange your plate, and on the macros and the micros and with those nutrients, because I think, that stuff is interesting and it's important.
It is.
But you won't digest it, you won't understand it, you won't accept it, and you won't necessarily apply it if you haven't dealt with those other bigger issues, those nuanced issues, the ones that we can't see, the ones that we take care of behind closed doors. And so if I were to offer any advice, that would be the biggest, level of advice. And then you can hear the true message of, eat these vegetables,
Yes.
take these, vitamins, include these, into your diet, get this much exercise a day, and, physical activity a day. Then that will be, but it'll be more than just words that you write down or you hear or it'll become something that you actually understand, you implement, and you integrate, and becomes a part, of your life. So
Right.
that's the school I went to was called integrative. It's integrative, intuitive, nutrition. It's about intuitively knowing how to integrate things into your life.
Yes.
To make it, more seamless. It's not a struggle.
Yeah.
Your life can really become what you want it to be, and not just, oh, well, she has it because of this. No, I have it because I want it. I have
Right.
it because I and I deserve it. I have it because this is what I've chosen.
And
chosen
you
for
have to
myself.
want to have good health. You have to want that, because when you want it, then you obtain it.
No, because nobody can want it for you.
Nobody can want that for you. So love yourself enough to want to have good health. First
Right.
of all, love yourself
And
enough
it
to
sounds
want to have
simple. It sounds so simple, but your family can't love you,
No.
And a lot of times we'll see our family members who are suffering, like, Mama just won't eat right. Mama just doesn't. Well, Mama's gonna have to make. You can present things, and I've been an influence even in my family.
Yeah.
I feel like. But one of the influences that I try not to be too preachy.
Right.
I try not to force things on them. I try to, if they ask questions or be, curious. Sometimes with my dad, with dads, you can be like, you need to stop eating, drinking that. And he's gone. He'll tell me, he's like, baby girl, it's been 2 years since I've had a soda.
Yeah.
He stopped drinking soda.
Yeah.
And he, because he.
So sometimes it's the little things, even if you can just start with something small and just say, you know what, I'm gonna stop doing this because I know that it's not working for my good. And if you just say, hey, I'm gonna just stop. If you drink 5 sodas a day and you say, you know what, I'm just gonna cut back to 2 a day. At least start somewhere. You gotta start trying to change some of the habits, because I can guarantee you this, at some point it's gonna catch up with you.
And notice the feeling of what it feels like to feel good.
Yes.
Because for me, I feel so good most of the time. Any slightest discomfort,
Yeah.
I'm not having it. Like,
Yeah.
like
Oh,
we got it,
believe me,
we got
I
it, we got it. And so my ability to be able to heal myself becomes like exponentially faster.
Yes.
And so even like with sore joints or aching, and I've had bad knees up, when I started when I was a kid. I don't have knee problems anymore,
Yeah.
and I don't necessarily get to lift weights and stuff because my schedule doesn't allow like I would like to. But when I start having, like, if I worked, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna rub my ointments on it, and I'll be like, okay, this is what we're not having today.
Yeah.
I need for the pain to subside, and I don't give it as much as attention when
Right.
it comes to me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, it's gonna work itself out.
Yeah.
And that's the ease that we have to take for ourselves. A lot of times people don't understand. They're scared of the diagnosis, so they battle it. They think that oh, well, I'm just going to, take the medication and eat what I want to. I'm not going to educate or respect myself or listen to my body.
That's what happens.
And it's just that lack of focus and lack of, attention.
And we have to do better. We absolutely do have to do better.
And I think we are.
Yes.
I think we are. I mean, if you look at the stores and the availability of what's going on in the market, you look at the availability of more holistic products.
I think it's coming around.
I think so. The will and the want and the need is being asked, and so now people are being able to find the solutions to be able to fulfill that. And so I wouldn't have been necessarily drawn to this information, and and people were seeking me out for this information. So I really feel the need is out there, and so I'm really encouraged, more than discouraged. These numbers, we could look at it as a bad thing, but we also could look at it as this is a point of where we know we want to do something different. We want and expect something different. So you know what you want, and then go after it.
Thank you so much, Chef Eboni, for being with us today.
Thank you.
And next week we are going to get with the next stage of the level of diabetes, because again, we want to walk through this and understand the different stages. So thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem.
Welcome to Mind, Body, Soul Shift. This is Greta Ross, your host, and we are here with Chef Eboni. Welcome.
Hey, Greta.
How are you this morning?
I am Fabalous.
Woo, I hear you, girl. That's
fabulous.
Awesome.
Hey,
I love it. I love it. You were here last week, and man, we had a great time.
Oh, gosh, we did.
It was good. I mean, girl, I was enjoying that hummus. I've never had it before, but it was so good.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I'm glad I was able to introduce you to something new. And that's the one thing that I absolutely love, too, as well, is just being like a breath of fresh air to people. And just giving them a new experience and, trying something new. Because what is better in life than trying something new and enjoying
and loving it.
And loving it.
Exactly.
And so I'm glad that you
I did. It was really good. And, it's great. You could have it at parties or even by poolside.
Right. Oh, great summer snack, because it's pretty mobile, because it doesn't have to stay like ice
Exactly.
And then the different, however you want to shovel in your mouth, tool.
You can use some pita bread.
Olives. My friend loves olives. And so,
veggies.
For veggies, you name it, carrot sticks, and actually I've used it as a spread on a sandwich.
Really?
Yeah, so.
All righty then. Sounds good. So welcome today. Listen, I want to talk about a subject that has not directly affected my life, but I know that it affects millions of people, and that's the topic of diabetes. I've gone to the doctor, and they told me that my numbers have been off, and I was borderline, which, they don't really explain to you what borderline really means. Your numbers are high. They say you have good cholesterol, you have bad cholesterol, but how does that all work together as far as my diabetes, and they don't really go into details to explaining that to you. So, and I think that there's a big misconception about diabetes, and that's why, because we don't know how it operates and we don't know how it works, that's why we end up contracting it.
Well, I think that, sometimes as specialists, people want to be the holder of all the knowledge, and they just want to disseminate to you what they think that you can handle.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a knock to, Western medicine. I just think that that's been the approach, and even just looking at the history, because once it became a formalized institution, it was taken out of the hands of the midwives and the homegrown doctors and the herbalists and the people that actually lived in, and grew and cultivated it. They created these associations to say that, we're legitimized and you're not, because you're not a part of us, so whatever you're saying is illegitimate and you don't know what you're talking about unless. So that's really, if you really want to kind of look at the history of it, is really kind of how a lot of natural cures and natural remedies have kind of faded out and has gone to pharmaceuticals because it couldn't be patented, right? And so, even a lot of, there's a lot of natural drugs, even for like digoxin, right? And so that's actually made from foxglove. So digoxin is used for, regulates your fluid for your like water retention. And so a lot of times they prescribe that to people who have like heart disease or heart issues. Well, they were able to take that plant and reformulate it in a way to where they could patent it, and now it's a drug. But if you were just to need to take foxglove in its natural state or natural form, serve it as natural form, it couldn't be patented. So that's one thing people need to understand. And it's not there are pros and cons to regulations. The idea behind the idea and the philosophy behind regulations is great on the surface.
Yes,
but there is that underside of where too few people get a control of the masses, and then they begin to be the self-regulatory of regulating themselves, instead of the checks and balances of making sure that it's fair and it's even, and that the best of the best is actually being presented versus the favorite of who's going to profit the most and who's going to benefit
It's
the
almost
most.
like who's policing the police?
Nobody. And so that's what's happening even now with the FDA. You'll have people work for the pharmaceutical company who will go work for the FDA and vice versa.
Yes.
And within the different levels of agencies. And so I just, it's that we should question everything.
Absolutely.
I think that we should, because when you do, it puts people on their toes. Whenever you're seeking medical attention, if a doctor thinks that you're going to question them in a way that sounds intelligent, that sounds knowledgeable, that sounds informative, they will be less likely to be careless with your care.
Yes.
Right? And so I've noticed that time and again when I've gone with family members and I began to talk.
Right.
And they'd be like, "Oh, do you have medical background?"
Yes.
I'm like, just enough.
Yeah. To know.
And so you notice the level of care, like it kind of shifts, the attention that you get.
But I think that level of ignorance is what keeps people in the place of the diabetes, because they don't really have the accurate information.
Right. Well, especially when it comes to diabetes. I do teach a diabetes class, and what's disappointing and astounding and probably not necessarily really that surprising, how many people have the disease and don't even understand their diagnosis.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, because I was told by my physician that I was borderline. Now, of course, she didn't go into details as to explaining to me what that means. Nor did she even.
And this is the thing, is when this borderline, so many different doctors, and the idea of what that means varies. Like there's been so many. And a lot of it, they look at different numbers. So they look at your A1C, and then they look at your blood glucose.
Okay.
So your A1C is an average of how your blood sugar's been over like the past 3 months. So it's a blood test that they're able to see how your body is metabolizing the past 3 months. And then your blood glucose is what your blood sugar is like right now at this moment. And so sometimes somebody can have a pretty good A1C, right? But their daily blood sugar spikes a lot. So they'll have these drastic highs and lows. So when you take the average A1C, it looks pretty normal. Or you'll have somebody that just stays at a very high, high elevated blood glucose level, and then that's how it happens. So a lot of people don't even understand what blood glucose level means, what's diabetes.
Well, the thing is that when you go and have those tests, they'll tell you, well, this is what your AC numbers are. But if you don't understand what an AC number is, then how do you know what to do? You know what I mean? You don't even know.
Generally, when you start getting between 6 and 7, is generally the A1C is what they say is close to borderline. And so, and then your blood sugar, depending on when you've eaten, you want to be less than about 120, 80 to 120, just depending on where you are with the meal. So it's important to not necessarily know those labs, but what is diabetes,
and how does it affect your body?
So I like to paint a little picture.
Okay, all right. Paint us a picture.
All right. So if you picture your body and your blood, and you have your pancreas, right? And so your pancreas is located kind of in this area right underneath your gut. It's actually a gland, so glandular organ that produces hormones. So it's actually one of the larger ones. So you have your thyroid, your pineal, and then your adrenals. So your pancreas is one of those. It's not like you're different from your liver. So your pancreas produces insulin. So your main source of energy is glucose. Right. It's sugar. And and your cells need sugar. Yes. Which is great. But one of the great things about our body's defense mechanism is that it just doesn't let anything in. Right, it's pretty discriminatory. It's smart like that, right? So all of our cell walls, they're pretty smart. They don't just let anything in. So they have to have special permission. They have to have special passcodes, special carriers to allow them in. So even though sugar is vital, if you don't have that special passcode to get that sugar inside of that cell, it doesn't go anywhere. Okay. So just like oxygen, when we breathe in oxygen, right, we have our red blood cells that connects to the oxygen molecule that allows it to enter into our cells. Right. So that's the same thing that our pancreas produces insulin for. Insulin is that carrier for that glucose. Right. So it's a little bus, right? And it has a special key, right? It has that fob, right, to be able to get you inside that cell. Right. So you eat your food, and whatever it is that you're eating, it'll break it down to its smallest form, which is glucose. So depending if it's just straight soda, that glucose is readily available, right, because it's already pretty much in the simplest form. Or if you're eating an apple, right, it's going to take a little bit longer. It has more fiber to break through. So just depending on what you're eating and the concentration. So once you eat this, your body breaks it down to glucose, and then you have this insulin response. Okay. Right? So this is what we're talking about, insulin response. Right. Your pancreas releases insulin. And so it connects to the sugar, and they sit and they become really great friends, right? And so then this insulin just goes around in your bloodstream and it goes to the different cells. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? You need some energy? And then because it has a special passcode, because that sugar's on that insulin, it'll allow that sugar molecule into the cell, and then the cell can metabolize it and use it for energy. Right. So when we have diabetes, there is way too much sugar than what our insulin, our pancreas requires. Pancreas can actually produce and handle, right? And so we'll have, let's say we only have 700 seats available, right? We have 700 seats available. That's how many calories, like in a meal. 700 seats available for sugar to get digested right now at this time. But you give it 1,200. Well, that extra 400 is going to be left in the blood because it's not getting into the cells because it's not enough room, not enough insulin to carry that sugar inside of the cell so that it can be metabolized. And so when we say we have elevated blood sugar, that's what that actually means, is that your body is not getting the sugar, the cells aren't getting the fuel that it needs. So actually people who are overweight or diabetic, a lot of times they're really starving because they're eating, but their body's not producing and now their pancreas has just gotten tired. It's like, girl, you worm me out. This ride at Six Flags is closed. We're shutting down. We're not offering 700. We're offering 300, right? Or we're offering, and so the response becomes down. Or now you warn them out that they're misshapen and they don't respond. Their lock and passcode, your body doesn't recognize it. So when they say you have you're insulin resistant, that means that your body doesn't even recognize the insulin that it's making anymore. And so it doesn't allow that sugar to get in. And so imagine sugar in anything. Sugar is an acid. It's acidic. It's corrosive. So sugar can etch concrete, right? And so that's what's happening inside of our veins. That's what's happening inside of our arteries. When we have prolonged periods of elevated blood glucose, of blood sugar, that our blood becomes like thick syrup, right? And so it should, run pretty thin like water. So imagine when I teach my classes, I'll even probably have some examples of the different viscosity of, so first you start out with water, and now you're getting up to like 10W30 and 10W50, and now you get the dirty motor oil.
Right.
It's trying to push through your blood, and so it's scraping and it's scarring the inside of your arteries. And so this is how heart disease, you become a higher risk for heart disease because you're damaging your arteries over a long period of time. Kidney disease, because you're putting so much stress on your kidneys because of all this extra sugar that's, that's trying to be filtered out, your liver. And then this is why neuropathy. So you have all this sugar, and you think about the capillaries that's in your fingertips and in your feet. Those are the smallest blood vessels that's in your feet. It blocks that.
Yeah.
And so
this is good information. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Mind, Body, Soul Shift. Welcome back to Mind, Body, Soul Shift. This is Greta Ross with Chef Eboni.
Spirit fingers.
So listen, we're about to wrap this thing up here.
Okay.
But one of the things that I do want to reiterate here, especially amongst our people and especially amongst our African-American men, because, men just have this thing about going to the doctor. It's like, no, I'm good. And they won't go. And then the next thing you know, somewhere down the road, they end up like, with this, God forbid, drastic thing that happened to them because that could have been prevented. But they didn't go to the doctor. So can you please speak to?
Well, if you look at, mortality rates, morbidity rates, men, and especially African men, have the higher rates of, these diseases and actually succumbing to them. When I'm teaching the classes, most of my classes are women that I teach, and very few black men that, actually attend. And I have a father that has my dad, my stepdad, he has diabetes. And so just even dealing with him, he stopped drinking soda. But I just realized when I was talking earlier about the balance, right? And so so overly reliant on logic and what you see can control, and I think that it's, and I love men, and I love black men. I think that life requires balance. So we can't have one without the other.
Right.
And so as a woman, and as much as I enjoy my femininity, what I love enjoy my femininity is against the backdrop is against masculinity. So this is not a hit at men or masculinity or like I'm one to bring you down, because I think a lot of times it's always this us against them type of thing.
That is not
what I want is as a mother to a young black male, as a a daughter, as a lover, that this is the place that I'm coming from, is that you have to want to care about your health and your well-being more than anybody else. You have to be your own best advocate. And whatever it is that makes you tick, whatever it is that gives you joy in life, whatever that gives you pleasure in life, you have to find that cause, and you have to turn that internally and make you a priority as well. Make your health and your well-being, and not just on some false ideahood of what it means to be, a man and to be masculine, or going to the doctor asking for help or seeking for knowledge outside of your own understanding. I think that's the one thing, about the human intellect, is that it gives us a lot of false negatives, false positives. And so because we do have our senses, we can see, hear, smell, and touch and taste, we rely so heavily on those, we forget about those things that we don't know. And if it doesn't come within our knowledge, we just ignore it, or we think that it's wrong. And so what I just want to invite people to do is to open that space, to know what you know today, but open that space to have your mind change, to learn more, to expand more, to open your library up of possibilities of information that can be filled with it. And, when it comes to just, taking care of your health, your emotions, one of the reasons why I think men deal with more diseases was because their emotions are suppressed.
Yes.
It's because they don't have a name to, like women, we have, as much as men like to talk about women and our menstrual cycles and menopause and all that, but we know how to release them.
Right.
Or no,
Yeah.
we know how to try to put a name to them.
Right.
We know how to try to deal with them. And as I become more, grow into my own self and my womanhood and learning how to balance, learning how to express them more healthily, right? Not necessarily always express them necessarily in the most healthy ways,
Right.
but learning how to express them in healthy ways, learning how to talk about, know, and digest what you're feeling. And not just have situations happen, in your environment, and you just suck it up and you deal with it and you move on.
And think it's a way of life.
And think it's a way of life.
That's not so.
Being black, in America, we can have that as something as a badge, a scarlet letter, or we could wear that as a cape, and it's really dependent on how you look at it. Like I tell my son, nobody is going to come after you if they didn't think you had something that you want, that you had a value. So if you think the world is coming after you, that means that you have something that they want. And so that's the part that you have to tap into and find value in. That's the part that you have to realize that nobody is going to put their sights, like if I don't think anybody's worth anything, I'm not going to give them any attention.
Exactly.
Right? But if I have to constantly try to figure out how to come after you, that means you have something I want. And so if we can take all the instances that we see on, on TV and the news and social media, we could make us depressed, or it could empower us.
Yes.
And then that means as well that we have to begin to control our own energy. We have to control what we attract into our lives. We have to control how we take care of ourselves, how we respect ourselves. If you want to be respected, you have to begin to respect yourselves and those people that are around you. If you want, if you want love and you want growth and you want freedom, you have to learn how to begin to feel those and express that within inside of yourself. And so I think that's, one of the best parts. And I know it seems like a far deviation from diabetes.
No. But actually, it's not.
But, somebody who is empowered, is self-empowered, right, that has their own vehicle that they feel firm and stand and strong and move in, then they're unstoppable. So, I just think that if you look at anything in society, we've been here since the beginning, and we're not going nowhere. No. And you look at our style, our, what we've created, from history to modern day, everybody still copies us. Yeah. And so we have to realize if they're copying, then it's something about me that's worth looking at and noticing. What is it that they see inside? Do I see that inside myself? And do I present that, or do I present, whatever? Or like with my dad, and I love him to death, but he works so hard for everybody else that he's not taking care of himself. You know what I mean?
And that's usually the case.
He was in the Army. He's like, the Army just told me how, taught me how to ignore my pain. You just move past it. You just, my knees, I'll be sitting in the tank and my knees is all, he's like, so not even, so when the doctors begin to even ask him questions, he can't even answer basic questions. About his well-being because he doesn't pay attention to it. Right.
He just say, well, what is your pain level on a scale of 1 to 10? He's like,
he doesn't know. He doesn't, and so until the part where now he's having to have lots of different surgeries on different medications. So that's what I'm even talking about. Even then, it's just like you just ignore.
Yes.
So having somebody to talk to.
But it only makes things worse when you continue to ignore it.
And it doesn't make a man weak,
no,
to
absolutely
talk,
not.
About how you're feeling. And it's not like you have to talk to everybody.
No.
Or, because you have, your friends, your loved ones, you know those people that's in your circles that you can trust. And begin just to open up. Even if somebody's just that, they cut you off in traffic and you just upset, you need to let that go. Or somebody on your job is, acting funny or whatever it is, don't hold on to that. And think that, that you just going to tough it out. You're going to be okay.
Yeah, because it's just like pushing, you got a rug in the middle of the floor and you just keep putting trash under the rug. Right. You keep putting trash under the rug. Every day you keep putting trash. You take trash out of your trash and put it under the rug. Sooner or later it's going to start smelling. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's just going to...
Well, right. And my son, he played drums, right? And so the drum heads had to be replaced after so a while because they get flimsy and they don't sound good. Right. So a lot of times I think with men is like they just keep beating that same drum. Yeah. and you beating that same drum, but now
it's getting weaker.
It's getting more.
but because it's a principle. It's not like, we're sitting here saying that, this is going to happen to you. What we're saying is this.
And not even saying that you have to be somewhere, in an emotional ball and just start crying.
No.
But again, if you look at the yin yang, right, and you have the white and the dark, and in the dark and in the light, you have light and dark, a little bit in each, right? And so each of us all have that inside of us, right? And so it's all about, trying to find that balance. And with the masculine energy, of course, needs to learn how to tap more into some of that feminine energy, and that will help balance them out more. So then I think women have kind of gone a little bit too far masculine as well, and suppressing and not accepting our femininity. That's a whole nother topic in itself another day.
Well, you know what? Here's one of the things I definitely want to leave with everybody is, and especially men, because I think that women are more connected because we're more emotional, but and men just kind of withdraw. But here's the one thing that I definitely want to say is, our Creator that created us knows everything about us. Okay, so let's say you went out and bought a blender, okay? So you bought a blender and you open up the box. As soon as you open up the box, what is the first thing you see? You see a manual, right? Okay, in the manual, it tells you what you can do. It's like, don't put this in the bathtub with you.
Right.
Don't do this, but you can do this, this, and this. So it tells you all the things that you can do, but it also tells you all the things that you can't do with it, okay? But because the manufacturer, which is the creator, okay, the creator gave you all these, and the creator says, if you handle this blender according to the instructions and something go wrong with it, what we'll do is you can send it back to us free of charge. We'll take it back. Either we'll fix it and send you a repaired, or we'll send you a brand new one. Now, these people don't know you, but you bought their product, and their name means everything to them.
Right.
So that means that whatever the problem is, they're going to make sure it's going to get fixed, right? Okay. So that's how our Creator is. So if He has the information, that's the manual. If we open up the manual and we see the instructions in the manual, if we follow the instructions, a lot of the malfunctions of things that we have in our life, we won't have them.
Well, and people's like, well, what are the instructions? And I think
the principles.
Right. Well, I think a lot of that is as well. I'm kind of to say, it's like people's like, well, I wasn't born with a book attached to me. It's our emotions. When we're feeling bad, we're deviating. When we're feeling good, we're feeling closer. Right? Because if God is the source and is love, that's the ultimate emotion. And so if we're constantly, and people's like, well, I didn't want this, I didn't want that, and I can go back and look at even different events and circumstances on surrounding it and be like, oh no, emotionally I was kind of like all over the place, and now I understand why that outcome occurred. Of course, if I were to write it down on paper, no, I wouldn't have wanted that situation. But if I look, I probably was kind of had a lot of the trash under the rug that kind of spoiled the mix, and so. It's so important that that internal anger, an internal rage, that internal sadness, disappointment, disconnection, those are the types of things that we need to begin to find our way out of, and begin to find the joy and the love and the light.
All that other stuff causes things to start to malfunction.
Exactly.
And once things start malfunctioning, you can't even.
And a lot of times what happens when, once you get into the state, it becomes a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So you get the diagnosis, then you have the medication, and then you have the mismanagement of the diagnosis because you don't even understand what it is.
Exactly.
And now you have all these adverse health outcomes that begin to happen either because of side effects from the medication or mismanagement of the disease itself,
exactly.
right? And now you become a science project because there's either more medications or it's more medical, procedures that have to be done, and then more medical intervention. And then the more medical intervention that you have, you know what the number 3 cause of death is actually? It's actually medical intervention. So the more you have to see a doctor, the more likely you're increasing your likelihood. If the cancer or the heart disease didn't get you, then the doctors and the drugs and the medication intervention did. So it's so important that
That's why we have to go to the manual, because the creator knows, he created us, you know, and so he knows. So if you, whatever product you buy, you're going to have a manual to it.
Right.
And if you operate it according to that manual, according to the principles, I guarantee you will get the results of that. Thank you so much, Chef Eboni, for being here with us today. This is Greta Ross with Mind, Body, Soul Shift. Thank you very much for joining us today.